Hello, everyone. So, fine. I hope I am audible. If there is any issue, fine. I hope I am audible. If there is any, just let me know in the chats if there is any issue with the voice or anything. Okay, so we'll start the session. Uh, I'll just start with a brief introduction. I am Sonalika Ruchandani, and I'm an electrical engineer. I have been preparing for UPSC since the past 5 years. I have given two mains, once in 2020 and then in 2022, the last year. Out of the two attempts in the first mains that I wrote, I missed the mains cutoff by 3 marks, but I scored very low in political science. I scored around 235 in both the papers. And in the last year, I managed to increase my score for PSIR by somewhere around 50 marks. So I got 287 in political science, and I again missed the cutoff by 3 marks, the final cutoff. So three seems to be quite the number for me. But anyways, I am here to share my strategy for how I increased my marks by 50. What was my sources, my strategy, and how we can, to some extent, how we can be sure that we are going to get good marks if we are doing the basic things. So, okay, we'll start with the most basic questions that have been coming up to me. The most basic question is, what were my sources? So for sources, my basic notes, I didn't have a political science background. So for basic sources, I referred to Shubhra Ranjan ma'am's class notes. I had taken the classes back in 2018, and I have been using those notes as my basic sources. For the static part, there is not much change, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to update those notes. Those notes are good for basic understanding, but then I kept updating them. I kept updating them through various sources, which I'll talk about later in the videos. So, basic sources were Shubhra Ranjan ma'am's notes for especially for paper 1 part A and paper 2 part A. Other than that, of course, for paper 1 part B also, the notes made a major chunk of my preparation. Other than that, I used some other sources. So for that, we'll discuss section wise what were my additions to the basic notes, what changes I made, and how I managed to increase my marks through my answer writing. So for paper 1 part A, the you will have basic theories. You will have Western political thoughts, thinkers, ideology section is there. Indian political thought section is there. So apart from the basic notes, I added up some extra things through IGNOU material, Indira Gandhi Open University material. I'm sure all of you must be aware about that already. Um, Not just for content but also for improving the understanding. Generally, for people, especially for people who don't have a background, what happens is we just mug up the theories because that's what you have to do. You have to memorize and you have to go and reproduce. But unless you have an understanding, you will not be able to comprehend the questions which are coming in the paper, and you will not be able to replicate it, replicate your knowledge in the answer sheets. So for improving your understanding also, IGNOU notes helped a lot, especially for topics which are very vague, like democracy, for political theories, for ideologies. So to understand, to improve my understanding and to do some value addition, I used IGNOU notes. Apart from that, I joined the test series at Shubhra Ranjan ma'am's institute for both the years. They will give a crash course where they will be giving some video lectures and some content test through model answers also, and some extra content PDFs they provide you. So I used those PDFs. You don't have to like do everything what they are providing. It's not possible in this small time. But then, especially for people who are giving mains this year, if at all you're planning to take a test series there, they will provide you with content you will not be able to consume. So you just uh, choose selectively. I used to watch the videos at 2x, and by the end I actually stopped watching the videos. I just download the PDFs, and then whatever content you feel like it's new, you have not read it, that you can just add it to your notes. Note making also we'll discuss about the note making strategy also. So I used to add it to my notes. For example, my notes were like 3 4 years back, and last year when I joined the course, I learned a lot of new keywords which have to be used. For example, in Aristotle, I learned about phronesis, which was the practical ideology of Aristotle, basically. So these things, you have to keep updating. The other people, see, it's just a competition, right? So other people keep updating, and you will also have to be updated. So whatever new things you're getting, just selectively be very wise with your preparation. You don't They will give you n number of content, but then you should be wise enough to understand what to consume and what to leave. So just some keywords, extra knowledge, you can take it up. Okay, Kartikeya Sharma is asking, now they don't provide PDFs in foundational course. Last year when I joined, they did provide PDFs in crash course. This year I'm not sure, but fine. Anyways, they provide the lectures, so you can watch the lectures at 2x speed, and you can add the content. Anyways, other than that. So yes, for paper one part A, IGNU and the crash course additional material, model answers, of course, their model answers are good. And I also went through a lot of topper copies to understand how to implement the knowledge which we are having. So this much for source for paper one part A. This much is, I think, enough. Acha, don't just restrict yourself to coaching notes or something. Sometimes when I didn't used to get any content anywhere, or when I wanted to learn something, I used to just use internet. So uh, you can type whatever keyword or whatever topic you feel like you don't understand properly, and then you will get a lot of content for PSR actually on internet. So don't restrict yourself to just one coaching or one book. Wherever you get good knowledge which you can use in examination, you can use. For example, I got a very good content on end of ideology thesis. I Until last year I used to feel like end of ideology Francis Fukuyama, that's it. But then I actually understood how end of ideology thesis came through, and how things really developed. So these things you can look it up over the internet. For paper one, part B, basic ma'am ke notes were the basic notes which I used, because it's polity, and polity is something which keeps updating. We keep going through it in current affairs. So for that, what we can do is you just go through the previous year question papers and understand the kind of questions that they have been asking. So mostly they ask a lot of questions on judiciary. So you prepare judiciary very well. The previous 1 decade, 2 decades, trends in judicial activism, judicial review. Last year they asked about basic structure doctrine, which is like a very common question which should have been prepared. So judicial delays, judicial infrastructure, these things you should very well prepare, because there will be a question on judiciary for sure. Other than that, for executive, they will ask question of CAG, they will ask election commission, they will ask National Commission of Women, NCST and CST. But what differentiates your questions or your answers from GS answers is they will check your practical knowledge on it. So how they will ask, evaluate the performance of CAG in the previous decade, evaluate the performance of election commission in the previous decade. Thus you will not get anywhere. So you use internet, you collect some examples of how the performance has been of these all commissions, National Commission of Women, National Commission of NCST, in the previous decades. IR will discuss. I'm coming to IR only. After this, paper 2 part A. Paper 2 part A has a lot of international relations theory, which is the actually the most important part of the entire paper, I believe, because if you have a very good hold over theory, you will score very good marks, not just by writing theories but by using these theories in your paper 2 part B as well. As for the sources, for theories, I used Shubhra Ranjan ma'am's notes. Nothing else than that is required. If you're understanding the theories very well, you will not require anything else. For IR part, I don't know how these days the notes have been, but then what you should do on your own, and which is completely doable also in this time, you just prepare your own notes for each country's relations with India, US, China, Russia, African continent, South American continent, Asian continent. Everything you should have historical relations, the relations of India with all these countries, what has been until now, what has been the important vantage points, what has been until now, what has been the status. After that, one most important source which I used was Observer Research Foundation. So for IR, I actually never relied on anybody's notes because it's completely dynamic, it's very subjective, and it's always better if you understand things. Your understanding will definitely be checked in the paper for IR especially. So Observer Research Foundation, what I used to do is when I'm reading India US, I'll just read 2 3 articles of Research Foundation. Other than that, the Diplomat I did use for some articles. You don't have to use it like thoroughly, you don't have to read it regularly, but when you're reading relations of one India's country with any other country, you just use it as a reference. If you get a good article, you get, sometimes you get very good articles in The Print, The Wire. Diplomat is a very good website. Carnegie Foundation is a website by Ashley Ellis, who is a very renowned scholar for India US relations. So Carnegie Foundation website I used extensively for India US relations. Also, Indian Express was a newspaper which I followed throughout because you get very good articles by C. Raja Mohan, by Christopher Jeffrelot, by Harshvi Pant also sometimes. So to read those articles, and I keep adding. I used to prefer digital notes for IR because you have to keep adding and subtracting things here and there. So these were the basic sources. Other than that, whatever you get for IR, if any good article you're getting, you should refer to that. Just make sure that your analysis is complete, and more important than this is your how you are able to interlink the theories with the practical IR. So during answer writing, you don't just have to write when they're asking about IR. What my general idea also was in my previous attempt was I have to write a lot of scholars, and then I ended up quoting C. Raja Mohan and Harshvi Pant in most of my answers, and I got very bad marks. I just got 110 in paper 2. So that's not something which they expect. I read it in a lot of topper blogs by Utkarsh Dwivedi, by Navjot Simi, that you're not expected to quote scholars just for the sake of it. If it is coming naturally in the course of answer, then it's fine. Even if you're not able to quote any scholar, it's completely fine unless you're able to provide the analysis properly. So analysis should be there. Interlinkage of theory with practical is something which I did extensively this year. So I quoted scholars, and see, it's so much easier. You quote Kenneth Waltz. Kenneth Waltz has given realism theory, and international relations always is based on realism. So you can always quote Morgantho, you can always quote Kenneth Waltz, you can quote Mackinder. So during this Russia-Ukraine war, this Mackinder's geopolitical heartland theory is something which we should have quoted in the answer, because what he told that whosoever will control the Eurasian subcontinent will be the person who will control the entire world. And in this Russia Ukraine war, there was an attempt to get a stronghold over the Eurasian subcontinent. So this kind of theories, Thucydides trap, can always be used for in China and US relations. We have already read it multiple times. So this interlinkage of theory will make your job also easier, because you will not have to remember a lot of scholars, and it will make the examiner will also feel like you're understanding the convergence between theory and practical. So for IR, of course, you read good analysis, you provide good analysis, and then you quote some theoretical aspects to make your answer look like it has some good amount of depth. So this is for the sources. After this, we will also talk about answer writing, because answer writing is something which I also did very extensively in this attempt. And by answer writing, I don't just mean you write the answer. You have to first analyze that are you able to comprehend the question properly before writing the answer. So when I went for some classes also during ma'am's crash course, and she used to actually make us sit and think for half an hour how you will plan your answer. So what should be the introduction and how your answer should proceed. See, for 20 markers you write 300 to 400 words at least answer you have to write. So it's like a mini essay. So you need to have a mind frame, you need to have a mind map how you will proceed, how you will introduce, how you will proceed in the answer, and how you will conclude. So before writing the answer, just make a small mind map of what the question is demanding and what all things you can write. Other than this, uh, for note making and for answer writing, this is a combined strategy. Once you are done with one or two revision of your basic notes, you make very short notes of your own which you will use for a further revision. Now in your short notes, you don't write full sentences, you never write full sentences in your own notes. You always make notes in the form of keywords. So after two or three reading of, let's say, Plato or Aristotle, you will understand that okay, these are the keywords that needs to be used for this particular thinker, and also these are the perspectives that I can include in when there is a question on Plato. What I did was I also pre-prepared my introductions and conclusions during the preparation phase. So when there is a question on Plato, or let's say there's a question on liberalism, Marxism, I prepared an introduction that when you will have to introduce this thinker, so I prepared that fine. When there's a question on Plato, I will write this introduction. So that saves some of your time also, and your answer will be more structured. You have to spend less time in thinking introductions and conclusions. So this even Shubham used to tell that you pre-prepare your introductions, conclusions for all the theoretical parts. The more answer writing you do, the more you will understand that mostly same things you have to write in your introductions and conclusions portion. So better to prepare it beforehand. So your notes should also be like this: introduction, and then these things, these two or three diverse ways I can introduce whenever there's a question on this topic. Then body, write it in the form of keywords. For example, for Plato, there will be theory of metals, there is functional specialization, there is a regimented society. So these are the keywords that needs to be used. That is what the examiner will be looking for. So make sure that you highlight at least those keywords and you use those keywords in your answers. So all the answers should be in the form of, all the notes should be in the form of keywords, and all the answers you should write in that manner only. So this is for theoretical. So this thing is actually valid for every part, not just for theoretical part, for every part. Even when you go for paper 2 part A, there are theories. So theories, realism. So how will you introduce realism? If there's a question on classical realism, you can introduce, and you can introduce it with Morgan too, and the tenets of classical realism. Then you can pre-prepare introduction for similarly for Marxism, for all the other topics. Even for IR, and this even this topper Semikaran used to tell that I prepared introduction for every country's relation with India also. So whenever there will be a question on India US relation, this is the thing that I will write in the introduction. So for India US relation, you can quote either Ashley Tellis, you can quote S. Jayashankar, or you can have an introduction of their own, but pre-prepare everything. This is how the toppers have been scoring good marks. So I saw some copies of this Navjot Simi, Utkarsh Dwivedi, and I saw that they have been using the same introduction, same conclusion, same content for various, like just you have to tweak a little bit according to the question. So this is the reason behind scoring good marks. I prepared a lot. I pre-prepared a lot of things, and I used those things in my answers in the final exam as well. Now this you can do, but then another thing, important thing for answer writing is how you are interpreting the question. So like I said before, starting answer writing on any level, you sit for at least 50 seconds and you think how you will plan your answer. You pre-prepare a mind map for your answer writing, and then you start with writing your answers. Your answers will be much better. So do that much you should do. How many answers to be written for optional? The opportunities are endless. You can write 2 to 3 questions every day, and you can give anywhere between 5 to 6 tests, even 8 tests you can give. It will help you only. If you're taking Shubhra Ranjan or even any other test series you're taking, don't focus too much on the evaluation and marks. In my 2020 attempt, I used to get very good marks in tests, but I ended up getting very bad marks in mains. So it's really the evaluation is very subjective. The tests are only for you to practice how you will attempt the paper, which I will also discuss now. So it should be how you attempt the paper. Are you able to finish the paper on time? How much content you are able to replicate? What are your weak areas which you were not able to recall? So test is just for all these things. Now, how to attempt the paper is also a very important question, and it can differ from person to person. But you should have a strategy for both GS and optional on how you are attempting the paper. So my strategy was first, see, because the cost benefit of 10 markers is very less. Even if you spend 1 hour in 5 10 markers, you will not get more than 50, or you will not get more than 25 26 marks in that. So why to waste so much time? So what I used to do is, because the 10 markers in the beginning will be something which will set your impression. So the first 5 10 markers I used to attempt in the first 35 to 40 minutes. Then the next 2 hours I used to attempt 20 markers and 15 markers, and in the last half an hour, sometimes 25 minutes will only be remaining, sometimes even 20 minutes will be remaining. I used to attempt the remaining 10 markers, 5 10 markers. And even for 20 markers and 15 markers, first I used to attempt the 20 markers, all the 3 20 markers, then 15 markers, because I just based it on how much benefit I will get on how much time I'm giving per question. So even for GS, even in GS, I scored more than 410 marks. So even for GS, first 5 10 markers, then all the 20 markers, then last 5 10 markers. That's how I used to plan my paper. So tests are for you to prepare your own strategy, experiment. पहले सारे 10 markers attempt करके देख लो, then 20, then 15, or first you either attempt all 20 markers, then 15, then 10. जैसे भी आपके मार्क्स ज़्यादा आ रहे हैं, you follow that strategy, but give tests and find out your own paper attempting strategy as well. So this was about answer writing, paper attempting. Now revision is also something which is very important, especially for PSIR. At least 2 to 3 revisions have to be done. So for revision strategy also, 2 times you can revise from your basic notes. Second time you start making your own short notes. And what I used to do is, today I'm reading 3 4 thinkers, so tomorrow I'll write previous year questions on those thinkers. तो उससे रिवाइज भी हो जाता है, एंड यू विल ऑल्सो लाइक योर आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस विल ऑल्सो बी डन, रिविजन विल ऑल्सो बी डन, and you will realize that these things I'm not able to remember, these things is something which I'm not able to recall in this thinker. So you just go back to it and you read it. अच्छा, starting में तो if you're like, if this is your first mains and you're not even able to, like, write your answers, recall content for your answers, आप देख के भी लिख सकते हो. Even for tests, Shubhra ma'am used to tell that you can, in the beginning you can just open your copy and you can write, because first you have to learn how to make good answers, then you can memorize, and then you can do whatever you want. So first you learn how will you, if you're not able to recall, you just watch it in your notes, just have a look at it, read it, and then you write. But you like, first preference should be given to proper answer formatting. After that, once you start writing same answers again and again and again, you will eventually come around it. So this is how answer writing will help you. Writing really helps to make a mind map in your brain, so it will help you to remember things also. So all the people who keep telling I'm not able to recall thinkers, I'm not able to recall theories, you write answers, देख के ही लिख लो, बट बार बार लिखोगे तो अपने आप याद हो जाएगा और प्रैक्टिस भी हो जाएगा लिखने का. तो आंसर राइटिंग के लिए आप इतना करिए और रिवीजन करते रहना है. जैसे यू फिनिश पेपर वन पार्ट ए, just give 2 to 3 days and revise quickly whatever you feel like you can't recall or you can't remember. For all the parts, similarly you do this. अच्छा, paper attempting में there is one more point. I also kind of made up my mind, especially for paper one, कि मैं I will attempt maximum questions from paper one part A theoretical portion, and IGP polity from that section paper one part B. I will attempt only one question, which is mandatory. तो फिर I focused also on my preparation in that way only. कि from here I will attempt I have to attempt two questions, so I didn't leave any topic of the syllabus. I prepared all topics beforehand और फिर मैंने एग्जाम में वहीं से attempt किए. And even for paper two, I was very like I had developed a good command over IR theories. तो मेरा यही था कि I will attempt more questions from the theoretical portion because subjectivity is less. बट पेपर टू में थोड़ा कहीं ना कहीं फंस जाते हो आप, बिकॉज सिलेबस बहुत बड़ा एंड देयर विल बी सम क्वेश्चंस व्हिच यू विल नॉट नो अबाउट, but then at least some thing you can develop. So these things you will develop with previous year papers practice and answer writing practice. तो जो भी सिलेबस आप आज पढ़ रहे हो, कल उसके PYQs आप अटेम्प्ट करके देख लो कि आपसे बन रहे हैं या नहीं. एंड इफ देयर इज एनी प्रॉब्लम, you can revise it, you can look at it over the internet, over other sources. I have also read OP Koba for Western political thought and all, but उतना cost benefit नहीं है. Just make sure that you are able to address all the things properly. थोड़ा बहुत एक्स्ट्रा कंटेंट होना चाहिए सो दैट योर आंसर स्टैंड्स आउट. एंड आधा तो आप तभी आगे हो जाते हो व्हेन यू आर एबल टू रेप्लिकेट एवरीथिंग व्हिच यू हैव रेड इन द पेपर. तो वो चीज़ रिविजन और प्रैक्टिस से हो जाएगी. So that needs to be done very well. And this is, I think, all which I had to discuss. Revision, answer writing, paper attempting, everything we have discussed. Integration of theories also we have discussed. So I think from my side, this is what I wanted to tell. और पेन भी मैं बता देती हूँ. लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल वर आस्किंग, सो आई यूज टू यूज पायलट V5 पेन फॉर ऑल द पेपर्स. एंड कोई इशू नहीं होता. लॉट ऑफ पीपल आर लाइक जेल पेन मत यूज़ करो, इट माइट गेट स्मज्ड और एनीथिंग, बट देन जिससे आपकी हैंड राइटिंग अच्छी बनती है आप वो यूज़ करो. हैंड राइटिंग का भी थोड़ा इफेक्ट तो पड़ता है. सी, इट्स नॉट ऑल्सो अबाउट हैंड राइटिंग, इट्स अबाउट योर प्रेजेंटेशन. आप ही अगर किसी का कॉपी चेक करोगे एंड यू, if the paper is very well presented, तो you will also feel good while checking और एक आध नंबर आप एक्स्ट्रा दे ही दोगे. तो थोड़ा प्रेजेंटेशन अच्छा रखो. हैंड राइटिंग आई नो इट कांट बी चेंज्ड, बट प्रेजेंटेशन तो रख सकते हो ना. कीप सम, यू विल गेट अ लॉट ऑफ स्पेस इन द पेपर. और PSIR में ऐसा है कि सारे पेजेस भर दो. लाइक अगर 4 पेज दिया 20 मार्कर के लिए तो पूरा फिल इट कंप्लीटली, बिकॉज अदर पीपल विल फिल इट. सो वो सब चीज़ें थोड़ा प्रैक्टिस से आ जाएंगी. And other than that, I think that's all which I wanted to discuss. Some questions are there, so let me address those questions. If you're having 2018 main notes, will it be sufficient to study or we need to purchase new notes? Well, that's what I told in the beginning. Even I had 2018 notes. उसमें आप वैल्यू एडिशन कर लो थोड़ा बहुत. उनका क्रैश कोर्स, लाइक यू कैन गेट, इफ यू कैन गेट द होल्ड ओवर देयर क्रैश कोर्स नोट्स, मोस्टली एवरीथिंग इज विच इज़ न्यू इज डिस्कस्ड. थ्योरी बहुत ज़्यादा चेंज नहीं होता है. एंड IR वैसे भी आप खुद से अगर करो तो ज़्यादा बेटर है, बिकॉज आपको थोड़ा एनालिसिस उसका चाहिए होता है. सो आदित्य, इट्स एडवाइजेबल दैट you just update your notes through the crash course or on your own also you can do it. अगर टाइम कम है और आपको ये वाला मीन्स देना है तब Okay, you're preparing for 2024 attempt, so no need of getting new notes. That will be enough. Just keep updating. Don't stagnate your knowledge. आप इधर उधर से update करते रहो. That's the most important thing. So that's done. How to use newspapers in notes making. It's a very tedious task, I understand, and I have experimented a lot with newspaper note making. So I'll just tell you the best thing is digital notes banao aap, for dynamic portions of the content. Even if you're making notes for GS, you can use Evernote or OneNote. They are very good. And आप कॉपी पेस्ट completely मत करो, बट उसमें आपको एडिट करते बनता है चीज़ें, एंड यू आर एबल टू ऑल्सो प्रॉपरली आप मैनेज कर सकते हो अपने नोट्स. यू कैन डिवाइड योर नोट्स इनटू सेक्शंस एंड सब्जेक्ट्स, एंड फिर आप उसके अकॉर्डिंग कर सकते हो. तो वॉट एवर फॉर PSIR आप अच्छे से यू मेक नोट्स फ्रॉम आर्टिकल्स. जो भी रेलेवेंट आपको लगता है कि ये सेंटेंसेस या ये पर्टिकुलर पैराग्राफ आई कैन यूज इन द आंसर, यू एड इट टू द नोट्स. तो if I'll not be able to show you my notes now, but my notes are very well structured in one note. India and the global powers, India US, India China, India Russia. फिर इंडिया यूएस के अंदर बेसिक सेट ऑफ नोट्स, एडिशनल इन्फॉर्मेशन. तो प्रॉपरली आप फॉर PSIR पोर्शन प्रॉपरली डिजिटल नोट्स बनाओ, क्योंकि उसमें बहुत अपडेशन करते रहना पड़ता है. बाकी GS के लिए डोंट मेक वेरी इलैबोरेट नोट्स, रिवाइजेबल नोट्स बनाओ. कीवर्ड्स वगैरह से ही मोस्टली हो जाता है. सो दैट यू कैन डू. एंड PSR के लिए यू कैन मेक वेरी गुड नोट्स. न्यूज़पेपर आधा तो न्यूज़पेपर आर्टिकल से ही IR का आंसर बन जाता है. तो मेक श्योर दैट यू आर यूजिंग न्यूज़पेपर्स. यूज Evernote, use OneNote. These are very good for organization of notes. If it is a part of paper one, then conclusion may be from the perspective of any scholars. Yes, you can include perspective of any scholars in the conclusion. पर हर आंसर में ऐसा मत करना. Your answer should have a lot of diversity. तो किसी आंसर में, स्पेशली फॉर GS, किसी आंसर में आप मैप यूज कर दो, किसी आंसर में आप फ्लो चार्ट यूज कर लो, किसी आंसर में आप यू कैन यूज दिस एरोज, पैराग्राफ्स. कहीं एन्यूमरेट बोला है तो फिर नंबर्स में लिख लो. कीप योर आंसर कॉपी डाइवर्स, तो आपको भी लिखते टाइम बोर नहीं लगेगा, और एग्जामिनर को भी ऐसा नहीं लगेगा कि मोनोटोनस आप एक ही तरीके से लिख रहे हो. तो scholars can be used for introduction and conclusion, but make sure you are not doing too much of it in any answer. Strategy for essay. Okay. I'll tell about essay in the end. Answer writing, how to brainstorm for GS and optional. Brainstorming is the most important part for GS and for optional. GS में तो बहुत सिंपल है. I also understood it after one attempt कि GS में actually it's very simple. जो भी क्वेश्चन दिया है आप उसको ब्रेक डाउन करो. मेक श्योर यू आर एबल टू ब्रेक डाउन द क्वेश्चन फॉर GS वेरी वेल, और जो पूछा है वो आंसर करो. व्हाट आई ऑल्सो यूज टू डू इन माई 2020 अटेम्प्ट इज, अगर उन्होंने बोला ग्लोबलाइजेशन, तो मुझे जो आता है मैं वो लिख दूंगी ग्लोबलाइजेशन पे. बट यू हैव टू सी व्हाट दे आर आस्किंग ना. सो इफ दे आर आस्किंग अबाउट द कॉजेस ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन, तो आप कॉजेस लिखेंगे. इफ दे आर आस्किंग इम्पैक्ट, तो इम्पैक्ट को यू कैन डिवाइड बिटवीन पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट एंड नेगेटिव. जैसे वर्क फ्रॉम होम का एक क्वेश्चन आया था लास्ट ईयर, तो उसमें इम्पैक्ट पूछा था, तो आपके कुछ पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट होंगे, कुछ नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट होंगे. तो वो आप दोनों साइड्स मेंशन करो. दिस इज हाउ यू ब्रेक डाउन. और GS के आंसर्स में आप जितना कम स्पेस और जितना कम सेंटेंसेस में क्वेश्चन को प्रॉपर्ली ब्रेक डाउन करके रिप्रेजेंट करने की कोशिश करोगे, उतना बेटर आपको मार्क्स मिलेंगे. क्योंकि कोई बैठ के आपके सेंटेंसेस पूरे नहीं पढ़ रहा है, वो बस कीवर्ड्स ही ढूंढते हैं आंसर्स में. तो ऐसा आप GS को ब्रेक डाउन करना सीखो. जैसे ही कोई क्वेश्चन दिखते हो, आप सोचो इसमें मैं क्या क्या बॉडी में हेडिंग्स आई विल पुट, एंड देन यू ट्राई टू ब्रेनस्टॉर्म लाइक दिस. तो सारे आंसर्स भी लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. इफ योर ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग इज गुड. अब जैसे किसी कोरल रीफ्स है, तो कोरल रीफ्स का आपको कॉजेस पूछ रहा है डिस्ट्रक्शन का, तो कॉजेस कैन ऑल्सो बी डिवाइडेड इनटू मल्टीपल एस्पेक्ट्स ना. एनवायरमेंटल कॉज है, एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल कॉज है, नेचुरल कॉज है. तो ऐसे डिवाइड करो. जैसे एथिक्स में अगर आपसे पूछ रहा है व्हाट इज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ इनर पीस, तो impact of inner peace can be on family, impact of inner peace can be on your professional life, can be on your personal life. जितना ज़्यादा ब्रेक डाउन करोगे उतना कम आपको हर एस्पेक्ट के लिए कंटेंट लिखना पड़ेगा, एंड उतना बेटर आपका आंसर दिखेगा कि यू कैन थिंक फ्रॉम अ वेरी वाइड पर्सपेक्टिव, योर थिंकिंग इज नॉट नैरो, योर थिंकिंग इज नॉट restricted. For optional answer writing, brainstorming is very different. For optional, you have to write in paragraphs. For political science, at least, I'm telling, paragraphs में लिखना होता है आपको, because you have to explain the things. तो like I was telling a while ago also, जब कोई क्वेश्चन आता है तो आप देखिए कि उसमें आप क्या पूछ रहा है, और कैसे आप, हाउ विल यू डेवलप द फ्लो अप टू द मेन कंटेंट. पहले आप इंट्रोडक्शन लिखोगे, फिर अगर 20 मार्कर है तो थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड स्टोरी आपको लिखना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो पेजेस कैसे भरोगे. एंड उसके बाद यू विल अंडरस्टैंड दैट यू हैव टू कम टू द मेन क्रक्स, एंड देन यू हैव टू कंक्लूड. कंक्लूजन शुड बी वेरी गुड, because after conclusion the examiner will give you marks. So conclusion should be very positive for in terms of GS. And for optional, you save something. कुछ अच्छा point अगर याद आ जाता है तो save कर लो कि इसको I will write in conclusion and I will get some extra marks for that. तो just for an example I'm telling you, आई वॉज चेकिंग एन आंसर कॉपी ऑफ अ स्टूडेंट जहाँ पे वो पूछ रहे थे कि हाउ इज प्लेटोज थ्योरी ऑफ एजुकेशन अ कॉन्सिक्वेंस ऑफ प्लेटोज थ्योरी ऑफ जस्टिस. तो यहाँ पे यू डोंट हैव टू जस्ट राइट प्लेटोज थ्योरी ऑफ एजुकेशन एंड प्लेटोज थ्योरी ऑफ जस्टिस. आपको लिंक करना है दोनों कॉन्सेप्ट को. तो द क्वेश्चन इज नॉट अबाउट थ्योरी ऑफ एजुकेशन, इट इज अबाउट थ्योरी ऑफ जस्टिस, एंड देन हाउ एज अ कॉन्सिक्वेंस his theory of education came up. So first you write about Plato's idea of justice, how he divided people into men of gold, silver, copper, how he created a regimented society. Then through his theory of education, he tried to derive a system that this is how this is how my regimented society will be developed. This is how I will create this system of justice. So brainstorming has to be done by you only. You have to learn how to make good answers. जब लास्ट ईयर भी लिबरलिज्म पे क्वेश्चन आया था कि यू हैव टू ट्रेस द एंटायर जर्नी ऑफ लिबरलिज्म. सो बिफोर राइटिंग द आंसर आई एक्चुअली इन द एग्जाम आई brainstormed for it in the rough page कि first I'll write about classical liberalism, इसमें मैं ये thinkers लिखूंगी, then I'll write about modern liberalism, neoliberalism, and then how I will conclude. तो वो बहुत ज़रूरी है, उसका प्रैक्टिस डेली करिए. जैसे जैसे प्रैक्टिस करेंगे स्ट्रक्चरिंग बनता जाएगा. कंटेंट डेवलप होने में टाइम लगता है, बट स्ट्रक्चरिंग डेवलप होने में टाइम नहीं लगता है. And once you have learned to structure your answers, half of your thing is done. So learn to make good structures for both GS and optional. It's extremely important. How to self analyze our answer. सेल्फ एनालिसिस ही कर सकते हैं एक्चुअली आंसर का. कोई इवैल्यूएट, इफ समवन इज इवैल्यूएटिंग द आंसर फॉर यू ऑल्सो, देन ऑल्सो इट्स नॉट श्योर दैट यू विल एंड अप getting these many marks. Self evaluation will be done. First you write the answer, and then for PSR or for whatever optional you are, you just look into the notes ki what points you wrote and what points you missed, yeah, what points you could have written more here. So I used to do this every day. I was writing answers and I didn't have any way to get it evaluated on a daily basis. So I used to write an answer and then I used to check in the notes कि क्या points मैं भूल गई, what points I would have included in this. So this I did, and this you can also do. अगर टेस्ट सीरीज ज्वाइन किए तो मॉडल आंसर से थोड़ा हेल्प मिल जाता है, बट इवन दीज आर नॉट दैट एफिशिएंट. तो जीएस में तो आपको खुद ही समझ आ जाएगा कि जब आप एग्जाम्पल्स कोट करने लगो, डेटा कोट करने लगो, when you start including flowcharts, you will also understand that you're improving in your content. बाकी for analysis, for evaluation, Karmyogi IS is also there every day. Answers are being evaluated. So something like this also you can take. Could you share your notes with Karmyogi IS or with us if we approach through email? Notes I can share, like entire notes. It's a very big document. Too much notes are there, and मेरे notes भी थोड़े haphazard है because I also learnt it, a little late that ऐसे notes बनाने चाहिए. But I will definitely share my sample. I will share it with Karmyogi IS or I will share it through my mail. That's not a problem. At least you should learn that this is how notes should be made. और ये भी है कि a lot of people keep asking for other people's notes. Toppers, all the toppers upload their notes. I can name a lot of toppers here itself who have uploaded all of their political science notes. But don't use them. You make your own notes, because the entire practice of mains is how you learn to sum up this much content in as less marks and as less words as possible. तो अपने खुद के नोट्स बनाना सीखिए. आई विल शेयर माई स्निपेट्स वॉट एवर sections you want help with. I will share it, no problem. Where can we get crash course notes? I don't know that. You can. What I did say, I'll tell you. Crash course is a little expensive and not up to their evaluation is not actually up to the mark. But then, me and one of my friend, we shared the course and we shared the tests also. Content दोनों को मिल गया और 4 tests we both wrote. उससे ज़्यादा वैसे भी अपलोड करने लायक था नहीं. आई रोट 6 tests but I didn't even upload all of them because I understood that their evaluation is not very good. So you can get crash course notes like this. If I get any lead, I will let you know. GS2 polity and PSR, how to approach these two together, and how can we make the best use of PSR for GS as it overlaps with the GS syllabus. This thing is also there. ये चीज़ not just for PSR versus GS. There are a lot of overlapping areas in GS as well, which are where you feel like इसको कैसे manage करें. For example, disaster management questions are asked in GS1, and a lot of last year Gati Shakti scheme was asked in paper 2 for some reason. तो बस ये है कि जिस पर्सपेक्टिव से पूछा है उसी पर्सपेक्टिव से आप लिखिए. जैसे कि GS1 में जब वो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट के क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं तो आपको जोग्राफिकल पर्सपेक्टिव थोड़ा लिखना है. तो फ्लड्स के बारे में पूछा है तो यू गिव जोग्राफिकल पर्सपेक्टिव. सिमिलरली जब PSIR और GS2 की हम बात करते हैं, आई एक्चुअली डिडंट प्रिपेयर फॉर GS2 अलग से. whatever I prepared for PSR, that was my preparation for GS2. बस करंट अफेयर्स जो GS में थोड़े अलग करंट अफेयर्स आते हैं और सोशल जस्टिस और गवर्नेंस वाले पोर्शन थे, दैट आई प्रिपेयर्ड. तो what we have to do is just make sure कि you're not you एग्जामिनर को पता नहीं चलना चाहिए आप PSIR ऑप्शनल के स्टूडेंट हो. अदरवाइज उनका एक बायस आ जाता है दैट यू शुड बी नोइंग मोर, या you have an edge over this, so maybe they will cut your marks in that way. So you just write all the information that could be used for GS. Don't ever write the names of scholars in your GS answers. For paper 2 I'm telling, for paper 4 you can use. So never write GS in your GS2 answers scholars और टू मच थ्योरीज. आप अपना IR का नॉलेज GS में यूज करो स्मार्टली, कि उनको पता भी नहीं चले कि आप IR के स्टूडेंट हो, PSR के स्टूडेंट हो, एंड मार्क्स भी आपको थोड़े एक्स्ट्रा मिल जाए. तो कुछ एक्स्ट्रा डेटा लिख दो. GS2 पेपर में आई ऑलवेज यूज टू ड्रॉ मैप्स फॉर IR सेक्शंस. वर्ल्ड मैप भी I made when they asked a question about quad. I made a very rough diagram of world map and I showed the quad countries. तो मैप GS2 में बहुत यूज़ करना है. जनरली PSR में मैप्स थोड़ा अवॉइड करना चाहिए अनलेस इट्स एक्सट्रीमली नेसेसरी. One or two answers in IR you can use, but for all answers don't use. It has to be a little on the scholarly side. GS2 on the other hand, you use a lot of maps, a lot of flow charts, Supreme Court judgments. थोड़ा edge हमको होता है PSR students को GS2 में. In both the years, I scored last time I scored 108, this time I scored 110 in GS2. So we have an edge. You use it wisely. Just don't overshow your knowledge in GS2 पेपर. जितना GS के perspective से relevant है उतना ही लिखिए. I will try to make a blog and I will try to share my test. A lot of people have been asking for the test copies also, so I will try to do that. Which test series preferred for PSIR? I took Shubhra Ranjan ma'am's test series for both the years, but like I told last year, मैंने split कर लिया था एक friend के साथ में. I wrote 6 tests, but I didn't get them evaluated. एक दो ही evaluate करवाए मैंने और बाकी self evaluation and self practice. अगर बहुत ज़्यादा expensive है लग रहा है आपको तो I'm just telling what I've heard. Sleepy classes, I've heard this in these days. It's going on too much around me. तो एक बार वो देख लीजिए. एक पीयूष चौबे सर की भी कोई टेस्ट सीरीज चलती है PSR के लिए, वो भी आप देख सकते हैं. बाकी पीवाईक्यूज आप खुद से प्रैक्टिस करोगे तो मोस्टली आंसर राइटिंग वहीं से ही हो जाता है. टेस्ट सीरीज इज ओनली फॉर योर अकाउंटेबिलिटी टू अंडरस्टैंड द स्ट्रैटेजी कि कैसे आपको पेपर अटेम्प्ट करना है, और वो टाइम लिमिट में जो आपको प्रैक्टिस करना होता है उन सब चीज़ों के लिए होता है टेस्ट सीरीज. तो कोई भी ले लीजिए. Writing 2023 means last year I got under 100 marks in PSI paper 2, but I haven't took any test series. Please suggest something for paper 2. I have already given my tips for paper 2. एक basic idea you should have for all the countries relations with India, और analysis होना चाहिए paper 2 में, rather than focusing on the scholars, or rather than focusing too much on the statements and all. You try to integrate your theories with the current IR relations. तो बार बार जब आप थ्योरीज देखो, एक बार आप पूरा सिलेबस जब पढ़ लेते हो, तब सेकेंड टाइम पढ़ने में आपको इंटरलिंकेजेस समझ आएंगे. इवन इफ यू हैव रिटन मेंस अर्लियर, थोड़ा वो वी टेंड टू फॉरगेट थिंग्स. तो एक बार पहले जस्ट गिव अ रीड फॉर एंटायर syllabus in the first 1 month. After that, in your second revision, you will realize what kind of interlinkages you can do. पेपर 1 पार्ट ए का लिंकेज हो सकता है पेपर 1 पार्ट बी में, इवन पेपर 2 पार्ट ए में भी लिंकेज हो सकता है. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स कैन बी कोटेड in each other's place. और जब आप ये interlinkages करते हो तो even when you read someone answer, you'll be like, okay, this was a very good interlinkage, ये तो I didn't even think of it. तो जैसे मैंने बताया, रियलिज्म की थ्योरीज यूज करो, केनेथ वर्ल्ड्स को कोट करो, मॉर्गैंथो को कोट करो, मेयर शाइमर को कोट करो. इन सब you just quote all this theoretical people in your practical answers, so that will really show the depth of your knowledge. और वो तभी आप कर पाओगे जब you actually have a depth. तो उसके लिए बार बार पढ़ो, read a lot of articles. PSR is something which you have to spend a disproportionate amount of time, because it's a big optional, it's a dynamic optional, but उसका benefit आपको मिलता है. I'm telling from personal experience. आप जितने ज़्यादा IR के लिए आर्टिकल्स रीड करेंगे, तो ORF, इंडियन एक्सप्रेस और साथ में आपका थ्योरी, ये 3 चीज़ों को इंटीग्रेट करने का कोशिश करो अपने आंसर्स में. एंड यू कैन रीड गुड कॉपीज. उत्कर्ष द्विवेदी की कॉपीज वेरी गुड, नवजोत सिमीज कॉपीज आर वेरी गुड, और मोस्टली तो थ्योरी से आप मार्क्स ला सकते हो. तो पेपर 2 में अगर आपको प्रॉब्लम हो रही है तो ट्राई टू रिमेंबर द थ्योरीज एंड ट्राई टू अटेम्प्ट मोर थ्योरेटिकल क्वेश्चंस देयर. Is there any a book for Supreme Court judgments to quote and answer? Book तो नहीं है. I didn't find any book like that, but there is a book by Zia Modi, 10 Supreme 25 Supreme Court judgments or 10 Supreme Court judgments that changed India. वो आप देख सकते हैं. Apart from that, actually you don't need. I haven't also read it. But जैसे आप अभी मेंस के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो, तो आई थिंक यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर 2024. तो जब भी कोई सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट आपको दिखता है, जस्ट मेक अ सेपरेट नोट ऑफ इट. तो डिजिटली या इवन फिजिकल नोट्स में you can keep a copy, and you keep noting down Supreme Court judgments. तो एक collection of Supreme Court judgments, एक collection of good committees, committee recommendations, SDGs, data, value addition, ये सब का आप साइड बाय साइड नोट्स बनाते चलो अपने प्रिपरेशन में. इवन इफ यू आर गिविंग मेंस दिस ईयर, यू विल रीड अ लॉट ऑफ कंटेंट इन मेंस 365, इन न्यूज़पेपर्स. तो आपके पास 25-30 सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट्स का कलेक्शन खुद से ही आप बना सकते हो. उससे ज़्यादा की ज़रूरत नहीं है, उसको हर जगह कोट करो बस. जैसे राइट टू रिलीजन के लिए 4-5 जजमेंट्स है, शाहबानो जजमेंट है एंड टेस्ट ऑफ एसेंशियलिटी है सुप्रीम कोर्ट का. तो हर टॉपिक के लिए कुछ जजमेंट्स होते हैं, और वो 2-4 आप इंटरनेट पे भी सर्च करोगे आपको मिल जाएगा. अपने खुद के नोट्स तैयार कर लो इन सब वैल्यू एडिशन मटेरियल के लिए, और फिर उसको यूज़ इन ऑल द पेपर्स. एक ही डेटा को हर पेपर में कोट करो. हु इज़ वाचिंग? So use your like have minimal content and try to utilize it in the maximum way. Modern history pre and mains. Prelims I only did spectrum, और अब काफ़ी redundant हो गया है spectrum, but even then this is something which you have to do basic minimum. Mains के लिए I actually didn't have time to prepare separately any notes for mains. PSIR में थोड़ा सा history आता है, तो उसमें जो मेजर पॉइंट्स है नॉन कॉपरेशन सिविल डिसोबीडियंस एंड दिस मेजर advantage points which were there in modern history. I did prepare that. बस ये है कि मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री में ना यू यूज़ अ लॉट ऑफ मैप्स. जब भी पूछ रहा है इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन पे क्वेश्चन है, या इवन इफ दिस क्वेश्चन ऑन सिविल डिसोबीडियंस नॉन कॉपरेशन, तो आप एरिया दिखा सकते हो कि किन किन एरियाज में ये मूवमेंट चल रहा था. तो जैसे भी जस्ट ट्राई टू ऐड अ लिटिल वैल्यू. तो मैप्स वगैरह यूज़ करो. कंटेंट तो प्रीलिम्स से बन ही जाता है मेंस का कंटेंट फॉर मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री, फॉर पॉलिटी बेसिक कंटेंट बन ही जाता है. तो सेपरेटली देर इज़ नॉट मच नीड टू प्रिपेयर. Vision monthly magazine useful in pre and mains? Yes, I used it as there was no question. हाँ, PT 365 से क्वेश्चन नहीं आता है. प्रीलिम्स का तो देखो अभी पूरा they have changed the entire way for prelims. Now I believe the best way to prepare for current affairs is to follow newspapers every day, and that's what I think they also want. और बाकी थोड़ा सा लक फैक्टर भी इंक्रीज हो गया प्रीलिम्स में. So for prelims, I don't. But kuch one magazine, if you follow, you will have a sense of self satisfaction that okay, I did the bare minimum, and that gives you confidence. And confidence is something which will help you in prelims. So whatever gives you confidence, एक magazine कोई भी follow कर लो so that you don't miss things. Environment, approach, and art and culture. Uh, Art and culture, nothing. I just read नितिन सिंघानिया. नितिन सिंघानिया में भी फर्स्ट चैप्टर सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है. उसके अलावा कॉइन्स, लिटरेचर, भक्ति सूफी मूवमेंट, ये कुछ इम्पोर्टेंट एरियाज है जिनको कवर करना है. लाइक आई सेड, फॉर मेंस यूज अ लॉट ऑफ मैप्स. For history, art and culture, these things will suffice. No need to do separately. How is Vision IS for mains? Mains 365 I actually used extensively. Mains क्या है, थोड़ा theme based होता है. So for mains you can actually rely on any magazine. कोई भी institute की magazine ले लो आप, and उसको आप थीम वाइज प्रिपेयर करते जाओ. इन द फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट, फर्स्ट मेंस, व्हाट मिस्टेक आई डिड वाज, मैंने सारे ही मेंस 365 पढ़े, उसके नोट्स बनाए, एंड आई डिड टू मच, आई स्पेंड टू मच टाइम ऑन दैट, और उसका कॉस्ट बेनिफिट था नहीं. तो दिस ईयर व्हाट आई डिड इज आई रेड इट वेरी सेलेक्टिवली. जो सिलेबस से आपको रेलेवेंट लग रहा है उन्हीं चीज़ों को आप मेंस 365 से पढ़ो. एंड अपने खुद के न्यूज़पेपर के नोट्स मैंने मेंस में बनाए हैं, एंड आई एक्सटेंसिवली यूज दैट, और उसमें से क्वेश्चन भी आए थे. तो मेंस इज़ वेरी प्रिडिक्टेबल. यू कैन यूज न्यूज़पेपर्स, यू कैन मेक योर ओन नोट्स, एंड बाकी थोड़ा बहुत हेल्प आप इन मैगजीन से ले लो, मेंस 365 एंड ऑल दैट थिंग्स. Uh, so just how I told now, magazine, just make your own short notes. एक पेज से ज़्यादा किसी टॉपिक पे नोट्स मत बनाना जीएस के लिए, क्योंकि उससे ज़्यादा लिख नहीं सकते. कितना भी आप कर लो, 250 वर्ड से ज़्यादा तो लिखना है नहीं, और उसमें भी जो क्वेश्चन पूछेगा वो उसका थोड़ा बहुत एस्पेक्ट होगा. अब जैसे सेडिशन है, तो सेडिशन का आर्टिकल नंबर, आई मीन दिस आईपीसी वॉट एवर article is there related to that, that you write. Sedition's definition you write, examples you write. In favor there will be some arguments, against there will be some arguments. हर टॉपिक को ऐसे डिवाइड कर लो कि इन्हीं एस्पेक्ट्स पे क्वेश्चन बन सकता है, और वैसे ही आप मैगजीन का कंटेंट यूटिलाइज करो. एग्जाम्पल्स उससे आपको अच्छे मिल जाएंगे, फ्लो चार्ट्स मिल जाएंगे, बट बहुत फालतू का कंटेंट भी रहता है उसमें. तो अपने खुद के नोट्स आप उससे बना लो थीम वाइज. Supreme Court judgment booklet is available by Vision. That's great. I will also look at it once. How to use magazine, ये हो गया. How to avoid demotivation. Still not cleared pre, or I should go for some other career option. I don't know which attempt is this for you. Demotivation तो होता है, and especially when they set paper like they did in 2023. I can understand. I have been through this. I have failed in two prelims in my initial two attempts, so I can tell that will happen. Or my honest suggestion, which is not my personal suggestion, but I met a lot of people during this interview preparation, and very good people, very accomplished people told me that after two or three attempts, three honest attempts, you should start looking for a backup. तो आप बैकअप देख लीजिए, यू कैन गो फॉर अदर एग्ज़ाम्स ऑल्सो। 1 साल है अभी प्रीलिम्स में, तो इतना टाइम नहीं लगता है। बस ये जस्ट मेक श्योर दैट वंस यू प्रिपेयर योरसेल्फ वेरी वेल फॉर मेंस, कि जब भी प्रीलिम्स क्लियर होगा आपके पास सारा कुछ तैयार होना चाहिए कि व्हेनेवर आई क्लियर प्रीलिम्स आई विल क्लियर द एंटायर एग्जामिनेशन। दिस इज वन मिस्टेक व्हिच आई डिड। आई वाज नॉट वेरी वेल प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर माय मेंस व्हेन आई क्लियर्ड प्रीलिम्स, एंड आई एंडेड अप लूजिंग माय मार्क्स बिकॉज ऑफ दैट। एक बार मेंस के लिए अच्छे से प्रिपेयर कर लो, देन यू कैन प्रिपेयर फॉर अदर एग्जाम्स, एंड साइड बाय साइड यू कैन प्रिपेयर 4 to 5 hours every day for UPSC. When should we make notes for mains if appearing 2024? You should start making notes now. For main specific topics, for example, there is this disaster management, internal security, ethics, uh, GS3 में एग्रीकल्चर से रिलेटेड जो PDS और फूड सिक्योरिटी, ये सारे टॉपिक्स हैं, इरिगेशन सिस्टम, गवर्नेंस, ये सबके नोट्स आप बना लो, बिकॉज बाद में प्रीलिम्स के बाद नहीं टाइम मिलता है। एंड हैविंग वेस्टेड माय टाइम इन मेकिंग नोट्स इन दिस टॉपिक्स आफ्टर क्लियरिंग प्रीलिम्स, आई एम टेलिंग यू दैट you should have your own notes for the static portion of the mains. अभी दिस इज द राइट टाइम टू मेक नोट्स। अभी बना लो, सितंबर अक्टूबर तक यू be very well prepared with your optional, with all the main subjects, then you start focusing on prelims based subjects. तो notes पहले से ready होने चाहिए सारे। एनवायरनमेंट अप्रोच, हाँ, एनवायरनमेंट बहुत डायनामिक है। प्रीलिम्स के लिए तो इट्स लाइक वेरी हैपेजार्ड, कोई प्रॉपर वे नहीं है प्रिपरेशन का। यू जस्ट हैव टू कीप लुकिंग एट द करंट अफेयर्स। तो एटलीस्ट अगर मैगजीन नहीं भी पढ़ना है या न्यूज़पेपर से ही कर रहे हो, तो एनवायरनमेंट के पोर्शन को थोड़ा ज़्यादा फोकस करो। एंड मैगजीन्स यू कैन रीड फॉर एनवायरनमेंट, ये जो PD 365 वगैरह आता है, you refer to those magazines for environment, for science and tech, for economy. These three things are very current affair based. Or don't just, again, like I said, don't restrict yourself to one institute's material. अगर कोई नेशनल पार्क, वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी आपको दिख रहा है, उसके बारे में थोड़ा और रिसर्च कर लो कि यहाँ पे कौन से ऑर्गेनिज्म मिलते हैं, क्या कोई रिवर पास हो रहा है। लुक इट इन द मैप, जनरली साउथ इंडिया और नॉर्थ ईस्ट, यहाँ पे देर आर अ लॉट ऑफ क्रैम्प्ड अप वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरीज, नेशनल पार्क्स, एंड वहाँ से काफ़ी सारे क्वेश्चन आते हैं, तो वो थोड़ा मैप पे स्टडी कर लो। बाकी बेसिक एक बार जो भी क्रिटिकली एंडेंजर्ड स्पीशीज़ हैं इंडिया में, आपको एक बेसिक आइडिया उसका होना चाहिए, बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं है। आप वही वही चीज़ें रिपीट होती हैं न्यूज़ में, पिग्मी हॉग एंड दीज क्रिटिकली एंडेंजर्ड स्पीशीज, राइनोसरस एंड ऑल, तो वो थोड़ा सा देख लो। और बाकी जो भी वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी, नेशनल पार्क न्यूज़ में आता है, उसको आप थोड़ा डीप में स्टडी करो, जितना बुक में दिया है उससे अ लिटिल एक्स्ट्रा यू डू, एंड लुक इट अप इन द मैप, दिस मच इफ यू आर डूइंग, तो हो जाएगा। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, फॉर मेंस, अगर आप एनवायरनमेंट के क्वेश्चंस देखेंगे तो इट इज़ मोर ऑन द human side. Like they don't ask about the species and all, they will ask about disasters, they will ask about, जैसे कॉप, कोई नया कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ पार्टी हो रहा है, लास्ट टू लास्ट ईयर दे आस्क्ड अबाउट COP 26। अभी जैसे हुआ है, तो दे कैन आस्क अबाउट दिस शर्म अल शेख दिस ईयर, दे कैन आस्क अ क्वेश्चन। जो भी नए इनिशिएटिव्स हो रहे हैं, जैसे जब पेरिस क्लाइमेट वाला हुआ था, तो उस पे क्वेश्चन आया था, तो इट्स मोर ऑन दिस लेवल कि जो अभी रिसेंट में चल रहा है एनवायरनमेंट पे, वो पूछेंगे। बाकी क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड ऑल आप थोड़ा सा प्रिपेयर कर लीजिए, और जो भी न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज निकल रही है, जैसे ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन है, इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स है, विच वी आर डूइंग टू सेव द एनवायरनमेंट, these things will be important for mains. So mains preparation is actually very logical and very predictable. So for mains, you can easily prepare based on current affairs. Could you please share your email for guidance? I will share my email over the chat. BA लास्ट ईयर चल रहा है, फॉर्म भर सकता हूँ। आपका एज एलिजिबिलिटी अगर है तो आप फॉर्म भर सकते हैं, फिर इफ़ यू विल बी ओवर 21 बाय द टाइम यू गिव द एग्ज़ाम। अगस्त का कट ऑफ होता है, तो अगर अगस्त के पहले आप हो जाओगे 21 के, तो यू कैन गिव द एग्ज़ाम। So, okay, fine, guys. I think it's going to be 1 hour, and I think I have discussed most of the questions which were asked. Anyways, I'm reachable. You can message in the Karmyogi IS platform. I am also sharing my Gmail over the chat box, so you can reach out to me there. Essay, okay, right. I forgot about essay. I actually will not tell much about my essay strategy because last time when I wrote mains in 2020, I scored 128 in essay, which was fine. This year, the only reason that I couldn't clear the cutoff, I stopped 3 marks less from the final cutoff, and the only reason was essay. I got very less marks in essay this year. I just got 87 marks. So I don't think I should tell much about essay at this point. I am like trying to figure out what went wrong. This UPSC has been doing since the past 2 years. They are butchering essays, and there has been a lot of difference between people's essay marks ranging between 80 to 140. So because they are very philosophical in nature, I will not share my strategy for essay. Basic चीजें बस बता देती हूँ. You have a good collection of quotes, good collection of data for the common topics. अब वैसे आ नहीं रहा है, philosophically आ रहे हैं, तो आप उसको थोड़ा practice कर लीजिए. लास्ट 2-3 साल के जो भी philosophical topics हैं, you try to practice them as much as you can, and collect good anecdotes, good stories, because for philosophical topics actually you won't be able to write much data. तो अच्छी स्टोरीज, अच्छे कोट्स, गुड एनेक्डोट्स, रियल लाइफ एग्जांपल्स, दीज थिंग्स विल हेल्प यू फॉर बोथ एसे एंड एथिक्स. तो ये दोनों चीज़ें आप कलेक्ट कर लीजिए, 2-3 चीज़ें, एंड कीप प्रैक्टिसिंग. अदर देन दिस आई विल नॉट शेयर मच बिकॉज आई हैव नॉट scored good in essay. Ethics, last thing, I also scored good in ethics this time. I scored 122. So for ethics, I will just quickly share my strategy. I used a lot of examples, real life examples of personalities, real life examples of IS officers. You're writing exam for UPSC. तो वो हमेशा एथिक्स के क्वेश्चन आपको एज अ प्रोस्पेक्टिव IPS officer या as a civil servant, they will try to check your values. So quote good examples of IS officers. You can quote examples from your personal life. You can quote examples from good leaders, good people who have accomplished good things. So ऐसे एथिक्स में एग्जाम्पल्स का रोल बहुत ज़्यादा है. जितने ज़्यादा आप एग्जाम्पल्स कोट करोगे उतना बेटर द एग्जामिनर विल फील यूर अंडरस्टैंडिंग द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ एथिक्स इन रियल लाइफ. और बाकी डेफिनेशंस प्रिपेयर कर लीजिए स्टैटिक पोर्शन के लिए. Case studies are a different thing altogether, but then it's been more than 1 hour. So let's have a session once again. If sufficient people are there, we will conduct the session and we'll discuss GS strategy separately. So I hope your answers have been, your questions have been answered. I will share my Gmail definitely in the chat box now. इंग्लिश को तैयार करने में कोई ऐसे बड़ा बात नहीं है. जस्ट कीप रीडिंग इंडियन एक्सप्रेस न्यूज़पेपर्स, द हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर्स, आर्टिकल्स. सो उससे ज़्यादा यू विल नॉट रिक्वायर. So thank you so much everyone for joining. I hope I was of some help. I felt very good after sharing my strategy because I'm putting my knowledge to some good use. So thanks a lot for joining this session. And in case you have any queries, you can post it up on the Karmyogi Telegram channel. So we will answer your queries. Thank you so much everyone. Bye.